Hey families, it's Miss Hamilton, and this is enrichment video number 2. If you guys did not tune into the first one, that was a shoe tying activity, and I highly recommend that, only because when we get back to school, I really want to have a lot more scholars saying, no thank you, Miss Hamilton, I know how to tie my shoes now. This was a really great activity, and so this, and also the supplies, like we used the minimal amount of supplies. I used cardboard. And everybody probably has cardboard laying around the house. I use construction paper, which again, you don't need. You can actually use regular paper and just color it, okay? I use my son's shoes, so you can use any type of shoes that you want to use. And I use these laces that I got from the Dollar Tree, okay? Again, there were about 4 in the pack for $1, so this was a really great deal. Of course, I always have my Sharpie and my pencil on hand, and I also use some scissors, okay? Again, the whole point of this is not so much to make it look so cutesy, right? But it really is just a fun activity. It sort of takes you away from the academics that I know you guys are working really, really hard on. But again, you're not going to get completely away from the academics, my people, because we have a little rhyme here that'll help you learn how to tie your shoes. And so families, if you are reading this to your children, say the words and point to them right as you're saying them, so that way they become sight words, and as soon as your child sees that word, they'll know exactly what it means, okay? But again, this is a really great activity if you just wanted to sort of get them away from the TV or the video games or anything else. You want to sort of get them away from the academic side of things. Have them go ahead and make this. Again, it's super easy. It's a fun little project. It doesn't take very long, and again, it's a skill that these kids definitely need, okay? And so again, check out this video, which you can either find on the Peaceful Schools Facebook page, the Peaceful Schools YouTube page, and the STEAM at Dr. King Facebook page, okay? I believe it's called Miss Hamilton's shoe tying video, okay? So check that out because this is a goodie. And it's useful, okay? But this one we're going to do here, my people, is we are going to do an analog clock. Why are we going to do an analog clock? Is because a lot of you do not know how to tell time with an analog clock, okay? And I will say that that's okay-ish, right? Because it's just the day and age, right? A lot of you are not using analog clocks. A lot of you are using digital clocks, whether it's on your phone and your watch may be digital. But there are a lot of analog clocks still in schools, and I'm glad for that, okay? And so that's why I wanted to teach you guys this, okay? And again, get you away from the academics for now, even though we're not going to veer too far from it, okay? So let me tell you the supplies that we used. We used poster board, and I believe this came from the Dollar Tree. I believe it was either $1 or 2 for $1, okay? As you can see, I already cut my hole, okay? I used this bucket that I had laying around the house. Again, nobody's asking you guys to go out and to get a large round stencil to make it perfect. If you have a mop bucket, right? If you have anything that's round, maybe you've got a little stool, right? Use whatever you have on hand, my people. You guys have to be resourceful, okay? So this is what I chose to use, and I used the top part, okay, because the round is bigger. I also used some glue, a bottle of glue. The last project I said you guys could either use a bottle of glue or a glue stick. This project definitely is going to call for the bottle of glue because we're using bottle caps in this project, and glue sticks just will not work, okay? We are using bottle caps, okay? We are using paint, and again, you don't have to use paint. You could use markers, you can use crayons, anything that you want to use. I don't know if colored pencils will work because I haven't tried that yet, okay? But when you're using either markers or the paints, you're going to definitely want it to take a little time to dry, okay? And for these paints, I definitely really made this into a 2-day project, okay? I used pipe cleaner. Also came from the Dollar Tree. I want to say they were about 50 in that pack for $1, various colors. And I use, of course, my Sharpie and my pencil, okay? So let me go ahead and tell you the first step. And this is what I started with, again, because you're going to need time for some of these components to dry, okay? Unless, of course, again, you're doing it in crayon. So I used my little 6-pack of paints from the Dollar Tree, $1, include the brush, okay? And so again, like I said before, we are not going to veer too far from the academics because when you have 6 colors here, we used 12 bottle caps, right? 1 for each hour on the clock. And so what I did was I used 1 color for 2 bottle caps, okay? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. You understand? So I used 2 bottle caps per color, okay? 12. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to go ahead and just start to paint my first one. I'm going to start with pink because pink is one of my favorite colors. For those of you who know me, you know that pink is one of my favorite colors, okay? And I am just going to go ahead and start painting my bottle cap. Okay? And if you wanted to, you can sort of go light on it and do one coat, let it dry, and then come back to it. What I did, I just sort of went a little heavier with it. And then I just actually let it dry for a lot longer, which is why I said earlier that this definitely can stretch out into a 2-day project, or else you could maybe start it in the morning and go back to it in the evening, however you guys want to do, okay? And I didn't paint the sides, I just did the top here, okay? I set it aside to dry. Once it's dry, my people, and only when it's dry, and I'm going to get this one that I did earlier that is dry, is now I'm going to write my numbers on it. This is probably really good if you use a dark color marker. Again, I usually have my trusty Sharpie, but if you are a child and you do not have a Sharpie on hand, parents, then a regular marker will do just fine, but I would probably do a color that is a little darker, okay? So I am just going to draw, let's say, the number 12 on mine. Because again, we are going to write from 1 through 12, right? We are going to write 1 on one of the bottle caps, 2 on another, and so forth until all of our bottle caps are used, all 12 of them, 1 through 12, okay? So I'm going to use the 12, okay? Then what I did was, because I already have my finished one here, I'm not going to show you yet, but once you have, oh, let me go back a step. Now that's going to dry, okay? So the first step was to get your bottle cap and to paint the bottle cap and then leave it to dry, okay? The next step was, after it's dry, to write your numbers on them, okay? 1 through 12. We'll set those aside. Then I will get my poster board and I will get whatever I'm going to use, which for me it was the bucket, and then I'm going to trace it, okay? I'm going to trace it with my pencil. And like I always tell the kiddies, including my own, is that always use a pencil first, because if you make a mistake, it's a very easy thing, okay, to get rid of. And then after you have your circle cut out, and again, you can use any shape you want, circle, square, whatever, you can freehand it, you can use something around the house, it really is up to you. But I would do it probably about a pretty decent size, okay? So again, this is what I'm choosing to use, okay? After I trace it, I will then cut it out. So parents, some of you or else older siblings may go ahead and cut this out. If you have kid-safe scissors, then even the youngers may be able to do this, but this is not to be done without parent supervision and parent permission, okay? I cannot stress that enough. So once you've traced it and you've cut it out, okay, we're ready to move on. So what I did was I first started with only 4 tops. I started with the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9, okay? And I did that because those are sort of those points that are really the north, south, and east, west of the circle, okay? And so what I really did was, let's say I put the 12 up here, okay? And then I had the 3 over here, and the 6 down here, and the 9 over here, okay? But I made sure that I actually just sat it out first so I could really just map out how I wanted it to look and if I needed anything to move over a little bit. I didn't stick anything on just yet, okay? So I just eyeballed it. I did the 12, and the 6 was right, the complete opposite below it, and then I did the 3 to the right, and the 9 all the way to the left on the opposite side, okay? Once I did that, it was now very easy for me to see where the other 2 numbers that are going to go inside. So for example, if the 12 was at the top and the 3 was all the way to the right, then I knew that I had to put the 1 and the 2 in between the 12 and the 3. You understand? Let me say that again. If your 12 is already at the top and your 3 is all the way to the right, okay, then you already know that there's going to be the number 1 and the number 2 in between the 12 and the 3, okay? And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add the 4 and the 5 in between the 3 and the 6. Got it? We're going to add the 7 and 8 in between the 6 and the 9, and then we're going to add the 10 and 11 in between the 9 and the 12. If you need me to run that back, rewind this, okay? Because you'll get it once you hear me saying it. Once you've done that and you're pretty accurate of the spaces, then you're just going to go ahead and you're going to move on, okay? And you can actually then start to glue. But what I would do first is I would first start to glue the 12 at the top and the 3, the 6, and the 9, okay? I would be generous with the glue, and if you're using this, it usually dries pretty clear, okay? So you can really be generous. I would do that and then just leave it alone because, again, this is a project that's going to take a little bit of time because it needs to dry, okay? Now, once you have that dry, we're going to move on to the next part. The next part is basically I am going to then draw 5 lines in between each number, okay? So for example, there's a space between the 12 and the 1. So I'm going to say if my 12 is here, okay, and my 1 is there, okay, I should have about 5 lines that are spread evenly in between here, okay? So I'm just going to give you an example. And again, I didn't measure these out. I just made the 5 lines, which I always say, do it in the pencil. So if you make a mistake, or if you're like, oh, that one's a little bigger than I wanted it, okay? So again, I'll just hold this up to give you a little example. The 12 is here at the top, the 1 is there, and if you can see, I can get close. I just made 5 lines. I do it in pencil first. I did it all the way around, right? Because the next number is going to be the 2. You're going to draw 5 little lines in between the 1 and the 2. And you just keep going, okay? After you have all your lines approximately where you want them, that's when I then ended up going over in marker, because at least that way you're able to see exactly where those lines are, okay? And I'll go ahead and do that now just to give you an example, okay? And even I made my lines a little different once I actually used the marker, because I might have had to make them longer. I might have made them shorter, right? I might have put a little closer together or a little further apart. And so it's really about you eyeballing it, okay? And so, for example, here you go. I did those darker. And so if I put this back up here, the 12 would have been here and the 1 here, right? That way I know, got it, the 1's there and the 12 is there, okay? And I've got my 5 lines, and we're just going to keep doing that. And like I said, I would go all the way around first with pencil, and then I would go back to it and then do it in marker or colored pencil. But I would definitely use maybe a dark marker so it'll really stick out, okay? It can be just a black regular marker, a dark blue, purple, whatever it is that you choose to use, okay? Now, the next step, what I did was I ended up having this nice round silver like piece of cardboard that actually came from Takeout, okay? If those of you who know me, you know that I really save certain things because I'm always thinking of what can I make with this, okay? Which is why, shout out to Peaceful Schools, I was awarded the Rumpelstiltskin Paper Plate Award, okay? Because I can make a lot of something out of just about nothing, okay? And this is an ode to that. Shout out Peaceful Schools for that. I still have that paper plate, okay? My Paper Plate Award. So I got this, okay? What I ended up doing is I got another bottle top, which was actually not as small as this. I think this other bottle top came from maybe a container of orange juice or something like that, maybe a juice of some sort, okay? I traced it right in the middle, put it in the middle, traced it, and sort of poked a hole right through it, and then I put the other top right through there, okay? And this is how that came out, okay? And also, what I did was, I talked about that pipe cleaner, okay? And I just wrapped pipe cleaner around it, but I'll get back to that in a minute. So this is the first step you do with this one, okay? I got another bottle cap that was maybe, I don't know what this was from, but it was from something, okay? And it was a different color, and I just ended up gluing it to a piece of cardboard and cut that out, glued it right on there, okay? And so again, there's sort of a lot of gluing going on, and you have to be generous with the glue, which is why this really could easily, like I said earlier, go into a 2-day project, okay? And then I did the same thing. I sort of put this on my board to sort of see that, of course, the hour hand is always longer than the minute hand, right? And so if I was to take this, you can clearly see which one is longer, which one is shorter, okay? So the almost finished product, I'll show you that in a minute. But before I show you that, guys, what I want to say is there is so many ways that you guys can do this. The whole point of this is to really get you to learn how to tell time, okay? And so at the end, this is basically what you end up having, okay? So I have my 12 here, and I just went all the way across, right? I've got my different colors, right? I've got 2 of each color, as you see, okay? And then I just numbered them, okay? Bam. And just like I said earlier, I put 5 little lines in between each one because those are also the little minute hands, okay? Now, the reason why this is sort of a 3-piece project, and I don't mind because this can easily go in a big Ziploc baggie, right, or a big sandwich bag, not a sandwich bag, maybe a big freezer bag, I should say, right, with all 3 pieces in here, because I actually want to do this so it can actually spin, okay? So if this is my hour hand, guys, see, bam, and I'm holding it up, right, but if it's actually sitting flat on the table, this will be a lot easier to do, but because I'm holding it up and I'm showing you, right, so you see where I'm going here, okay? If I just hold this here, I'm going to, let's say, put it on, let's say, point it towards the 3, right? This is the hour hand, guys, right? So let me just tell you this. The longer hand on an analog clock is the hour hand, okay? All of these numbers right here are the hour hand, right? So right now it's pointing to 12 o'clock, right? 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? This is the hour hand, okay? The longer hand on an analog clock is the hour hand. The smaller hand on an analog clock is the minute hand, okay? So if I put my hour hand over here, then what time is it, my people? It is 3 o'clock, okay? If I put it here, it's 2 o'clock, okay? Longer one is the hour hand, okay? So I'm going to keep it here at 3 o'clock, okay? Now I'm going to take my minute hand, which is a smaller one, and I'm going to, let's say, point that downward at the 6, okay? Now, let me tell you about the minute hand. You start off, guys, with the minute hand by counting by 5s, okay? So if I start here at the 12, I'm not going to start at the 12, but I'm going to start at the 1, okay? So let's go ahead and do it together. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. When you get back to the 12, you're at o'clock again, okay? So, okay? So you don't go 65 o'clock and 60 o'clock, you don't do that, right? Once you get to the 12, you stop, okay? And it's just o'clock again. So again, we would count, these are the minutes, right? 5, 10, 15. So if you know how to count by 5s, guys, you're only counting by 5s 12 times, okay? Technically 11 times, okay? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, okay? And that's where these other little minute lines are going to come in handy afterwards, and we'll talk about that in a minute, okay? So what I'm going to do here, my guys, if we do the refresher, we're going to put our hand back in the 3, and we're going to get a minute hand, and we're going to keep it on the 6. So if we know, my people, on this hour hand, right, it's pointing, because it's the longer one, it's pointing to the 3, which means we know right now it's 3 o'clock. That's the hour, 3 o'clock, it's 3, okay? The minute hand is pointing to the 6, and how are we going to do? We're going to count by 5s, right? So we're going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So now it is 3:30, okay? Let's say I was to move the minute hand over right about here. You'd still start counting by 5s, okay? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. But then it goes 2 more spots over. So once you get to 30, you then say 31, 32, because now you're counting by 1s, okay? All these lines equal 1, okay? So again, now it's technically 3:32. If I was to move it over here to the 7, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, it is now 3:35, okay? So this is, guys, why I really didn't mind this sort of being 3 pieces, because it'll really allow you to use this and practice. And what I found is, even when I was teaching my son how to read analog clock, it's one of those things that once he got it, because he knew how to count by 5s, he knew how to obviously count by 1s. Once he got it, it was like, give me another one, Mom, give me another one. And I'm hoping that that's what happens with you guys. If you take about 15 minutes maybe, minimum, maybe even maximum, right? To go over this with your child. Like most things, you have to come back to it, right? You can't just say, okay, I taught you that today and then we're done with it. You've got to go back to it, okay? Because they get rusty, right? Just like we do. We haven't been using something for a long time. We lose it, right? We know this saying. So again, guys, this was an activity that really I wanted you guys to learn how to tell time by an analog clock, again, because we're not always going to have a digital clock around. Again, I used things that were around my house. I used my poster board. I used my pencil, my marker, my glue, right? I used bottle caps, my little pipe cleaners, and so many of these things came from the Dollar Tree, right? I utilize that place so often. I use my paints. Again, you don't have to use the paints, but I decided to use these. It just adds another fun element to this. So again, guys, I hope that you guys really enjoyed this one. I don't know what we'll be doing on the next one, but again, if you guys did not go to the shoe tying one, go there because you'll also learn a great skill. I said on my last video, for those of you who actually not only make this, but you use it and you learn how to tie your own shoes, then I will send you a very special award for being the greatest new shoe tire, okay? If that's what we're going to call it. I'm going to send you not only an award, but I will also send you a very special prize. I'm not going to give you any hints on what it is, but what I want to see is I want to see that board, and I want to actually maybe even see a video of you tying your shoes, okay? Because then you're going to get an award, and then you're also going to get a special prize. No different here, guys. I believe in positive consequences, okay, for your hard work. And so if you make this, and you can make this out of anything, guys, like I always say, be resourceful, right? Be critical thinkers. What can I use around my house, right? If I don't have bottle caps, what else is there, right? If you don't have them, start saving them, right? For those of you who need some, I've got plenty, okay? You guys can use pieces of cardboard and actually just cut it out into circles or squares or triangles. And as long as you have 12 of them, right? And then, of course, you're going to need something else for the minute hand, and something for, something for the hour hand and something for the minute hand. But again, there's so many things around your house, guys, that you can use, okay? So, of course, with your parents' permission, you're not just going to start grabbing things, okay, and taking things apart to make this project. But with your parents' permission, go ahead and do this, guys. And families, this is really the time now for any skill that your child is lacking in, or they might need that extra assistance. This is really the silver lining to, I guess, everything that's going on right now. They can really have this opportunity to sort of go backwards, right? Where was the disconnect? What did they need assistance with? And now it's the time to do it. And again, when you take a break from those things, you'll do a fun activity, and then you will also gain a skill. So my people, I miss all of my little boo-boos, all of my scholars, all of my kitties so much. I hope to see you soon. Check out this video. If you do this, send me pictures of it. I want to hear and see how you guys are learning. And for those of you, again, who did that shoe tying video, or did the shoe tying activity and watch the video, I want to see that as well. So again, I will see you guys later. Bye, kids.